All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. There's going to be some folks joining as we kind of go along here, but hopefully we're able to sync back with them later. First of all, hello everybody. My name is Robert Hernandez. I'm a solutions architect here at Lightedge. Thank you so much for being with us today. We're here to talk today about building modern hybrid cloud infrastructures with Nutanix and Lightedge. I do have some guests with me today that are also going to help me kind of go through this. Again, my name is Robert Hernandez, solutions architect here at Lightedge. Been here about just over a year now, actually. With me today from Nutanix, our special guest is Parm. Parm, you want to say hello?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Parm Shabaniani. I'm a service provider solutions architect at Nutanix, and glad to be here.
Thank you so much. And with me as well from Lightedge is my friend Duncan. Duncan, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm Duncan Wanamaker. I'm a cloud architect with Lightedge, and I work to develop this solution for us.
Right on. So real quick housekeeping for everybody joining. Again, we're going to have people kind of coming in. We are actively monitoring the chat and everything. So if you have any questions that pop up along the way, anything that even is tangentially related, please don't hesitate to ask. We're happy to answer either during the presentation, and we do have a little bit of time towards the end as well. But without further ado, we're going to kind of dive on in. And so I want to talk for just a moment about what we're calling kind of the post-Broadcom era, right? And we all, truthfully, especially the technology industry across customers, service providers, et cetera, we've all been impacted in some capacity or another by the changes from the Broadcom acquisition, right? But really, it's been, in my opinion, actually a bit more of a positive one. So let's kind of dive into that, right? There's been a real big shift towards hybrid environments, all right? A lot of cloud costs have increasing, not just from hyperscalers, right? There's just costs are going up kind of here, there, and everywhere. And so you're seeing a lot of cloud repatriation, which is people are bringing workloads back down from their clouds into either on-prem or with service providers such as Lightedge. And the idea here is they want to be able to maintain those core services, right? The things that they rely on every single day, but they need to be able to do so in a more cost-effective manner. And so really, that's why we're seeing so many people, again, not just shift to hybrid environments, but also cloud service providers, to move on to the next point, are also pivoting, right? We're seeing the landscape shift. I mean, Lightedge has been a VMware service provider for a number of years now, but again, it's up to us to also shift with our clients, shift with, kind of the landscape around us. And so as a result of folks looking for alternative solutions and looking for the same level of expertise and support, we decided to reach out to Nutanix to really start building this new type of cloud product, something that, again, we could give to our clients that they could really enjoy and use within their environment. And it's not just us, right? It's not just speculation. There was actually a research done by an organization called SIBO that nearly 50%, okay, so 48.7% of organizations are actively exploring other cloud providers. Now, it's not necessarily all directly related to cost, but there's change happening, right? There's more and more organizations are looking toward a hybrid type of cloud, but more importantly to them, top priorities: flexibility and fair and open pricing. And it's really interesting, and Duncan, I'll ask you real quick. I find it's really interesting, talking to a lot of our clients. It is it's exciting for them when we say things like, hey, there's no surprises on your bills, right? It's nice to be able to say, hey, what you pay today is what you're going to pay tomorrow,
Absolutely, yeah. We have the commit based, so we have definitely we work with you to right size your deployment so that it is it's flexible at the same time. So if you decide and you grow, we can add, additional nodes or scale that to your needs.
Yeah. And actually, Parm, real quick, so especially considering you're coming at us from like the service provider perspective, right? I mean, over the last year, can you talk just a high level briefly? How many conversations have you been having with MSPs such as ourselves and even others?
Yeah, Robert, we've myself, I've just off the hook, literally since January of last year, so a year into this, right? We've had a lot of partners reach out to us, a lot of concerns around, a lot of aspects. To your point, flexibility and fair and open pricing. They're concerned about their customers. They're concerned about the products and the future investments. a lot of concerns, and when you guys reached out to us and we got a chance to meet up, and we're unbelievably excited to have you guys on the team. And at Nutanix, we're heavily investing in the service provider portfolio and the whole ecosystem in terms of our technology, our enablement, tools, certifications, the whole end-to-end ecosystem. And we're unbelievably excited to have you guys on board, and we're really looking forward to working with you guys, continuing to evolve the portfolio, working with your customers, and getting friction, and providing flexibility, and having an open pricing model. Those are all critical points, and we're seeing the same things.
Awesome. And it's again, with so much kind of I'll call it what it is, right? We've all kind of worked in, especially in the engineering space, it's stress from like what's the next thing going to look like. Stability, it means an awful lot. Openness means an awful lot to people. So it's good to see that, again, organizations like Nutanix are really kind of leaning in and saying, hey, we're here to help give you the things that you don't just want, but also need.
Right. Yeah, and we when we talk to partners, a lot of people have diversified portfolio around different hardware, around different platforms, but the hypervisor has always been the main staple, and now this has been a cataclysmic change, in the last roughly 2 years or so, right? But effectively starting in March of last year, when the things became quite official, and so we see it, and it's a great opportunity. And at the end of the day, Nutanix is about openness, and it's about flexibility, and we're a platform that gives customers choice.
And really, for me, like choices really matter, and choice is really kind of at the root of kind of what hybrid cloud is, right? It's really choosing the appropriate place for your appropriate workload, your appropriate need, and that's actually kind of really leans in or accentuates what we as Lightedge as a company really are, right? We have a specific view on the universe when it comes to cloud, right? And our philosophy top down is truly hybrid first. All right, we recognize, and I've said this for a number of years now. I've worked for service providers for a while. There is a time and a place for everything, right? I'm a staunch believer that, hey, maybe that virtual machine doesn't belong in this particular hyperscaler, in this configuration, for who knows what reason, right? And so when we get down to being able to provide the best experience for not just ourselves, but for our clients, their clients, etc., hybrid just makes sense to us, right? It's what do you need, and in what capacity do you need it? And so much so we've been doing this for decades now, and not even just with partners like Nutanix. We've, again, partnerships with VMware, IBM, hyperscalers, etc. We're built from the ground up to be a hybrid cloud provider. And actually, it's one of the great things about kind of working with Duncan is he's been here such a long time, and he's worked through different products. He's built all these different platforms. It's been really, eye-opening on my end to see just how much care and attention was put into making sure that what we ever deployed, whatever we sold, worked correctly. And I think, that's a tribute to you, Duncan, and others as part of kind of putting everything together.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. We've always tried to build solutions here that are really top-notch, but fully featured as well. So self-service and ease of use has really been kind of a priority when it comes to building our user interfaces, our cloud topologies. So when we're looking at Nutanix or VMware, I think we've got great solutions that cover the full gamut of advanced functionality like network segmentation, micro-segmentation, east-west firewalling. We support it all over our platforms, and Nutanix has been a great partner in helping us deploy this functionality.
I totally agree. It's one of the cool things about kind of working with Nutanix, and full disclosure, everybody, I've been a Nutanix customer in the past. I've deployed a handful of clusters myself for various organizations over the years. One of the cool things that I always liked about Nutanix was it felt like cloud. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely certain things about Nutanix and kind of the entire platform that really kind of spoke to me. I was able to do things that I couldn't really do very simply, right? And so like it seemed even from the get-go, right, that even Nutanix's approach from the beginning was, hey, we're a hybrid cloud company. We don't really care at Nutanix where you put the stuff. We just care that it works for you. And they put so much, again, care into building a platform that wasn't just kind of isolated, I could spin it up and have it kind of expand. Parham, I mean, that's, to me, I admittedly I'm a little bit of a nerd here, but some of the technologies underneath the hood, like it's such a quality of life, I feel, for some people that they may not quite recognize all the time, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, full disclosure, like yourself, Robert, I was a fan before I joined Nutanix myself as an architect. Been on Nutanix myself for over 9 years, and then been in the space, for over 20 years from a service provider perspective. So I've seen quite a bit, been through, the evolution of VMware as its platform matured in the service provider world, and now, joined Nutanix, and we're trying to do the same thing. But to your point, from a customer perspective, one of the things that was really exciting at Nutanix when I first got my hands on Nutanix was the experience of just bringing the cloud down to the customer level, and with service providers, that ability to kind of enable the end customer to have a lot of fluidity, and but really focus on outcomes, which is business objectives and what the customer is looking for, and kind of simplify the stack and make it easily consumable, deployable, and manageable.
Awesome. And actually, Duncan, if I may, can you talk a little bit briefly? I mean, the slide we're on talking about right now is how Nutanix is kind of hybrid by design, and I highlight a couple things, like, if I may, real quick tangent, talking about the really just being able to operate seamlessly, right? And when I say seamlessly, there's something it truly feels seamless to me. But taking more of a kind of a technology approach, Duncan, when you were working with Nutanix on building, the platform, what it was going to look like from a Lightedge perspective and working with our clients, I mean, can you talk a little bit about some of the design decisions and how some of the design decisions, rather, from Nutanix really kind of blended with how we like to approach delivering cloud to our clients?
Sure. Yeah. No, we worked closely with Nutanix and to develop that seamless connectivity. So if we have multiple data centers or even on-prem deployments for customers where we can deploy our dedicated cloud services, and these can connect to each other through our backend networking, and you'll have the same user interface, same management interface for your primary and disaster recovery sites. The networking, we have done the work to get like the transit VPCs. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but we have the advanced functionality where we can do all sorts of really cool things with the network and security and bridging multiple sites into that single pane of glass, which really makes things a lot easier to manage.
I will say that's one of the things, when we talk to have meetings with other clients and other members of my team as well, one of the things we talk about all the time is how easy it can be, from at least my perspective, to move like a VM from one place to another, right? It's pretty easy to do that. But the trick is making sure that when you do that it actually works, right? I have been in that situation where I've logged into the console and I go, oh goodness, why can't I ping anything, right? And so I'm a systems engineer by trade. I know cloud very well, but I am not so well versed in the networking side of the house. And so that's actually one of the reasons why I leaned into service providers in my past as well, is there's just certain levels of expertise that, while I may have in-house or I can develop, man, having somebody to rely on that's been doing it for decades, and admittedly started talking about some of the inner mechanisms between VPCs and all this back end, like that to me gives me a little bit of anxiety. But that's one of the reasons why I think so much, why we, again, as a service provider, why we present so much value to our clients, right? We can help a lot with that anxiety. And again, Nutanix built their platform in such a way that there's almost like no mystery to it, right? It's very transparent, it's very straightforward. And again, at least from the Lightedge perspective, we don't put any restrictions on that, right? It's what we call co-managed infrastructure. And so all the things that we're talking about there, we're building those up to our standards, making sure that they're functional the way that we need them to, but also this is your infrastructure too. You need to be able to customize it and fit it to your environment, to your needs. And our job as a service provider is to make sure all that comes together. And I will say real quick to touch on something we've touched on a little bit, just working with Nutanix in that regard. They've been very, very hands-on. Like, hey, we have this particular network topology. We have these particular services that we want to be able to provide to our clients, right? It's not just infrastructure for us. We want to be able to provide hybrid services, right? Hey, do you want to spin up Kubernetes? Do you need databases? Do you need distributed file servers? Whatever these things look like, again, it's been nice for us to be able to work hand in hand with Nutanix to make sure that we can also deliver that. And if I may, Parm, just to pass it to you for just a moment, because admittedly you've worked with us a fair bit throughout this partnership. Just a little bit, can you kind of talk what it's been like just working with Lightedge and kind of putting all this stuff together and really trying to address the problems from our clients' perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the experience with Lightedge, from the beginning has been just absolutely phenomenal. Duncan, the rest of the architects and the team, the product team, and everyone else. It's been a phenomenal experience. I think the team is heavily depth in architecture, their experience and background in cloud and design and infrastructure. Being a service provider, it's very visible. So we naturally were able to synergize and really talk about problems and challenges and what kind of product and services you guys want to build. And one thing I will tell you, when we think of the single pane of glass, one of the things that excited me about Nutanix is the ability to turn the services on natively and organically and enable those services without having to install another tool, without having to install another appliance, and then integrate those appliances. So from the world of a service provider, what that does to end customers is it removes friction, it improves SLAs, performance, and availability, all those things. So when we think of the platform holistically, the integrations really, we take that friction away so service providers can focus on delivering and managing services for their customers and decouple a bit of the challenges around the infrastructure with the goal of making customers happy, delighted, and focusing on what they need to do, which is achieve their business outcomes.
Heck yeah, I will say one of the things that you kind of keyed in there, especially around some of the deployment aspects, was like, I want to be able to just do this thing and not really have to think about it, not have to deploy another appliance, not have to figure out. That speaks to me so much because, again, as a systems engineer, I mean, I've deployed file servers, for example, right? That's very, very common all day long. But being able to click a couple buttons and not just get a file server, but get a distributed, highly available file server, everything kind of working and configured, and I can see stats, and all from like just one place, right? That to me, as both a systems engineer, as a solutions architect, is just kind of a nerd. That's great. And again, it's really taking the approach of, hey, focus on the service, not the infrastructure, not anything like that. It's all about the service, and that's been so great about working here with Lightedge and really kind of being a part of being able to sell this product to our customers. It's been great so far. Give me just a moment here. Real quick, if I may, Duncan, I'm gonna lean on you a little bit here. Sure. We're talking about Nutanix, but we really want to talk for just a brief moment, quick little background about what hyperconverged infrastructure is. Right now, it isn't to say that Nutanix is just a hyperconverged infrastructure company. Most certainly not. But when we talk about hyperconverged in relation to 3-tier architectures, I mean, can you kind of highlight some of the key differences between the two?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so, converged infrastructure is just that. Like the traditional 3-tier infrastructure was you had separate stacks of hardware for your storage and for your compute and for your networking. So you have with some of the consolidated or hyper-converged infrastructure these days, you have the storage built on locally to the server, which has a ton of benefits from engineering perspective. Like the data is very close to your VM. It's going to have very low latency. And it also gives you the flexibility to scale out as you build out your cluster. And some of the really cool things with the way that Nutanix did it is that, you don't have to have all the same exact size nodes. But, I'm getting off the topic of hyperconversion 3-tier, but it's just it simplifies. It allows us to deploy like a fully dedicated stack, for your needs, and that could be on premise or in any of our Lightedge data centers. And it's just combined. You know what you're getting. Your performance is not going to be shared. You're not going to have noisy neighbors that could potentially impact the speed of your storage. We also, we've standardized on NVMe. So we're only building the fastest possible, storage out there. So your experience with it is always going to be good when we're talking about these hyperconverged servers. Mm-hmm. But Nutanix is they're evolving. It's not all hyperconverged. We'll see where things go. But there's been some work in that area. So it'll be a mix, a hybrid of the two, I think.
Oh, for sure. And actually, so at Parham, you had mentioned something to me the other day, something to the effect of, thinking about Nutanix is not necessarily like a hyper-converged infrastructure, but again, a modern cloud company. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that and kind of like a little bit of the evolution and the journey of like, again, hey, there's hyper-converged, but let's talk about modern cloud now.
Right. And, so Robert, Nutanix, back in its early days was really founded, off of, some developers and engineers out of Google, who developed the file system there. And actually that was the key platform that drove Nutanix in its early in its startup days, pre-IPO, which is around our storage and file system. And at some point, and we primarily ran on ESXi and VMware for the first so many years of our evolution as a platform. And at some point, customers came to us and say, "Are there other options? Can we look at other hypervisors?" And that's when we went and took KVM and developed it and brought enterprise class features to it that are very much like VMware's, but based on our reference architecture, but based more on more of a cloud first type design. Mm-hmm. When you're looking at that. So when we look at that, as we talk about hyperconverged, what we really talk about is removing certain aspects of what you traditionally see in 3-tier architecture, primarily around 3-tier storage. And that's typically where you see most bottlenecks, as Duncan was referring to. Whereas we don't necessarily, our platform isn't based on RAID, it's based on RF, it's based on resilient factors of copies of workloads. And what that does is it allows workloads to have locality, the VMs on the node, and have a second path and just data distributed across the rest of the architecture across the other nodes. So what that does is it improves performance and at the same time add resilience, so that when you want to do a maintenance window, for instance, right, the customer doesn't necessarily take a downtime in that scenario. Those are some of the advantages of why we built the platform and from a hyper-converged perspective, but taking some of the aspects of cloud elements, those building blocks, right, and kind of simplifying the infrastructure, decoupling the infrastructure from where the services lie, to your point, Robert, and what customers actually need. And from our perspective, we're getting to the point now where we're about to have another evolution at Nutanix, where we're going to evolve out of hyperconverged into multi-tiered infrastructure, not necessarily traditional 3-tier, but we're going to look at the next evolution of storage, which is we're talking about data path based networking storage, NVMe over networking based storage, which is where all the new storage technologies are. And that's something that we're looking at Nutanix, and we're looking forward to enabling partners and service providers like yourself introduce that technology to customers.
I mean, that's really exciting for me. That's that again, when we talk about evolution, when we talk about, again, changing to meet client needs and just changing to how the industry kind of looks, right? It's important that we're being aware, we're being cognizant of the things around us. And that actually, again, leads us right into this. And so this particular customer story, so this is one of ours here at Lightedge. I'm actually very, very familiar with this one. And so this is a client of ours. They are a government agency, so with very specific, or rather they work with government agencies. So they have very specific requirements for compliance, data security, et cetera. And so they initially came to us with, hey, they had a legacy hosted application. It was on a 3-tier architecture, which is to say this was a VMware base, it had a SAN, et cetera. But they also had some legacy applications that tied into IBM. So they had some IBM workloads, some legacy IBM workloads that existed that they also had to work with. And so as we spoke to them, they were looking for a couple of things, right? First of all, they recognized that the infrastructure they had was a little long in the tooth. Silva was kind of working well, but they recognized a refresh was certainly due. They had some third-party SANs in the background, right? So a refresh was on the way, and they needed to. It really was important to them to migrate to a modern infrastructure. But again, the most important thing, going back to thinking about the service, their applications had to work. It didn't matter what platform you ended up on, the application had to work. Additionally, they had specific requirements when it came to RTO and RPO for their disaster recovery environments. So this particular client wasn't just looking for a single production environment; they were also looking for disaster recovery. Again, another compliance, things that they absolutely had to do. But again, they had requirements specifically around had to be able to be back up and running within a certain amount of time. And last thing, and this is really, really important to me. This is actually speaks to me from coming from service delivery years ago. Migration. All right. It's one thing to say, yes, we're going to move to this new platform. It's one thing to say, here's what we're going to do without re-architecting. It's entirely different to actually get there. Right. And so when you are working with multiple stakeholders within an organization, multiple application owners, all these different groups, having very few people to actually work on a migration, man, that adds an awful lot of stress. So there's a lot of challenges they were kind of working through. Fortunately, that's where we came in here at Lightedge. So we talked to them about a couple things. And actually, one of the first things that came up, and this was a genuine question I had for them, was, hey, do you really have any preference of your hypervisor or your platform underneath the hood of it all? And the reality was, no. They were like, we care about performance. We care about our applications working. We care about you guys making sure our stuff is online. Outstanding. I thought to myself, for a couple of reasons. Well, first, again, from a Nutanix perspective, right, we're able to hit a couple of things. First of all, we don't have to re-architect. In fact, it's one of my coolest favorite things about Nutanix was this idea that you could very simply, very quickly move to the cloud, right? That's great. But having that extra layer on top of that from Lightedge being able to also assist with that makes it even better. And so what we came to the table with for them was our Nutanix dedicated cloud platform. So this was both for production and their DR environments. And so we were going to place two separate sets of infrastructure, leverage that native disaster recovery technologies, right? And so Nutanix today, built in, I can replicate with different levels of RTOs and RPOs depending upon your needs between clusters. No need to, if you're familiar with other products, Zerto, for example, is one that comes to mind. I don't have to deploy extra infrastructure, worry about additional licenses, that type of stuff. It's integrated, it's there. And lastly, I wanted to call out as part of the solution that professional migration services from Lightedge, right? It's not for us enough to say, hey, here's your infrastructure, have a nice day. Our job is to get our customers up and running. Our job is to get the infrastructure stood up, migrate it over. Is everybody happy? Does everything work? Regardless of whatever platform, again, our job is to ensure the level of service. And I'll talk to you, Duncan, a little bit about some of the deployment aspects in just a moment. But really to kind of summarize where this went, they loved the platform. We walked through, I'll be perfectly honest, we had a demo, we walked through Prism. I showed them, hey, here's how you're going to spin up services. Here's how you configure data protection. Here's how you do all these different things. And by the way, as a co-managed service, right, you don't have to do this. Hey, if you're in a situation where you don't have the skill set or frankly, you don't have the time, that's a call to Lightedge, right? Hey, we'll go ahead and take care of that for you. Deploying a VM, adding storage, whatever that looks like, right? But the whole idea here was being able to take our clients from their traditional legacy, whatever you want to call it, infrastructure, modernize them without really any headaches. That to me is amazing. And again, Duncan, it's really a testament to the solution that the team here at Lightedge built and the team that we have kind of deploying all this, right?
It is. This is a dedicated product, right? So you have it completely. You have administrator access to it. We will help you. Take over any and all aspects of managing and life cycling that environment. If you've got any issues with it, you call us up, and we are on the phone 24/7 and can assist you with that just even if you just have a question. So we're here to be your extension of staff and maintaining these deployments. But the new Nutanix dedicated cloud, it's very robust. We deploy it, in a separate, network segment. You've got your own management network. You've got your own, firewall, and that's all BGP peered and everything. So it's very batteries included, including what you were saying about the disaster recovery functionality. In our testing, it's been very, very reliable, very fast. It's a lot easier, and it's nice that it's integrated directly into the user interface without having to purchase that additional, licensing. It's part of our cloud product. So, yeah.
No, I really that licensing piece. I mean, it seems like such a simple thing, but when we talk about, again, thinking about like what do I look for as a client? I'm looking for a service. Hey, when I come to you, service provider, and I say I want disaster recovery, I want the simpler in my brain, the better, right? And what's great about Nutanix is, and actually, if I'm being fair, working with Nutanix and Lightedge, is Nutanix again built a very open platform. They are all in on making sure that the level of service that every one of their clients, every one of our clients gets is amazing. But again, on our end, it's also important for us to make sure that we're facilitating that even to that next level, right? It's again, I love that you called out specifically, hey, if you just even have a question, not a problem. Again, we're going to be transparent. We have very simple licensing structures, et cetera, but you still might have a question or two, right? Like that's really important to us to get those answered. Going over this slide for just a moment here. So we talked an awful lot about, hey, we're doing this Nutanix dedicated cloud. We're doing all these things, but let's just talk real quick about some of the infrastructure actually on the back end, right? Let's see what some of the nodes we have working with. So today we have three, what I'll call flavors of nodes, right? From left to right, we have our standard nodes, high frequency nodes, and high core nodes. Now the differences here, really what it comes down to for us is your workload types, right? So our standard nodes, we took the approach, and Duncan, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here. Hey, general purpose VMs, we want to be able to provide a good high performance CPU. Again, you mentioned already that high performance storage, but again, a good mix of kind of performance and balance without, again, being so overwhelmingly large. That's another thing that's important to us is making sure that we're not oversizing clients as well. Wouldn't you agree?
Agreed. Yes. Yeah. We went through many different scenarios to pick some standard sizes here to really make deploying your environments easy and to fit many different workload types. So we did standardize on the NVMe storage, right? It's finally getting, I think, inexpensive enough and it's performant enough, especially with the new latest generation of servers with the PCIe Gen 4 and Gen 5 drives, really being able to push out a lot of performance. And then, the high frequency nodes, we wanted to be able to support those applications that really benefit from that higher frequency. Those gold 6444s right now are 3.6 gigahertz base clocks. I mean, they're pretty speedy. One of the fastest base clock you can get for Intel.
Right on. And it's one of those things where it seems so minor, but we serve all different clients of all different applications, right? And one, if I may just do a quick little tangent, one is always around licensing, right? Being able to say, hey, we have to license this particular application by the core. And so, but our particular application also has really big demands when it comes to CPU. And so again, our approach was, okay, how do we make sure that we are giving them the most performance while also not, again, shoving 256 cores at them? It's going to get very expensive kind of going that route. And so again, we try to do everything truly from the top to bottom from the client's perspective. Hey, if I were trying to buy this, what matters to me? What do I care about? And again, I'll even touch on the high core nodes here for a second. It's beyond that too, because we wanted to think in kind of partnership with Nutanix here. Again, think about the progression of our clients, right? And so when we look at like the high core nodes, that to me speaks to things like, while CPU intensive, things like VDI, things like distributed workloads. You start talking about kind of, again, changing architectures over time. And what's great is that we're going to be able to support that, and Nutanix is going to be able to support that too. It's, again, our job is really to enable our clients to have a flexible, easily scalable type of solution that is consistent, right? Performant, all these different things without any of the headache. And I feel like we've done a really good job kind of putting all of that together so far. If I may, I'm going to pass this over to Parham just for a quick little rundown of this particular Nutanix case study. So this was Penn National Insurance.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. So, so just as a, precursor to this case study, Nutanix has over 27,000 customers. We crossed that threshold recently on our platform and continuing to grow. We have over 1,000 partner and integrations with our partners. So, our ecosystem is getting wide from a perspective of partnering and tooling and that enterprise class and scale of services and support that we have, that breadth is growing. And so, when we talk about 27,000 customers, when we look at some of our customers at Nutanix and Penn National is a big one. And really, what's interesting about this customer is it kind of fits similar use cases around where Lightedge is as core product and service, especially around DR backup services. And that's really where this customer was heavily focused on, needing a DR solution without really wanting to invest in a data center. So they're looking at different options. And that's one of the beauties of our platform, to what you and Duncan have noted, is simply that you don't need to bolt on a different software platform, go through that integration, that complexity, and that potential friction with the customer as well, where the customer, if they're self-servicing that, they have to be able to operate into two platforms, into two different UI interfaces potentially, right? To do basic things like DR. As you guys well put, our platform for DR is integrated into the UI, so it's intuitive, easy to follow, and that would be another thing I would say is one of the reasons why our customers are so heavily leaning with us in Nutanix. Is one of the biggest takeaways early days at Nutanix was they wanted the leadership team was big on building a simple UI interface. It's very intuitive, easy to follow. You don't have to go learn so much, as long as you know where what you're trying to do and what your intent is around building a VM or attaching additional storage to it. Those basics, it's fairly intuitive to do it in our platform. In this customer's case, they wanted to simplify their VDI deployments, and they wanted to bolt on DR without extending to another data center. And so we have flexibility within our portfolio to allow our products and services to deploy up in hyperscale cloud, in this particular case AWS, and so to be able to attach and deploy workloads and replicate them into a hyperscale platform without the additional investments of hardware and infrastructure and everything else, and turn on the bells and whistles, Robert, turn replication on, get it going, and they were basically able to shorten their DR windows down to 2 hours, as we're denoting here, get their database configurations up. Again, key takeaways is focus on the services, focus on the core business, and focus on getting their compliance requirements checked for DR, and that was the case here with Penn National.
That's one of the great things I really like about working for an MSP like Lightedge is our approach is very customer centric, right? And again, that really truly aligns with what Nutanix is doing. Like our partnership is not just, hey, let's put some technology together and see what we can go sell, right? That was not the genesis of it. The genesis for our partnership was, let's go solve problems. Let's go make things easier for our clients. And the thing about, again, Nutanix having that kind of spirit from the get-go, and then same thing goes with Lightedge, right? Our hybrid first kind of mentality really just, it lets us be a bit more free, and again, a bit more client conscious, I suppose, right? Again, we're focused on outcomes, right? It's ultimately there's a lot of different ways that we could go about solving a particular problem, right? We've all experienced that, but I will say what has been refreshing, what has been great is we've encountered so much here in just my short year at Lightedge, and I have yet to encounter a problem that we have not been able to solve, especially in partnership with Nutanix. It's been great, and it's not even just us, right? You're also experiencing this with your clients directly. It's a really good time right now. I can say, like, coming from the post Broadcom stuff, a lot of nervous energy, right? A lot of anxiety is kind of going around. I feel like where we are right now has shifted, most certainly. I feel a lot more kind of positive momentum kind of going on. And I think Nutanix is kind of a big part of that. And it's because it represents, again, choice. It represents something that can help solve a problem, whatever that looks like. And to highlight really kind of everything across the board here, our partnership, it's again, it's more than just here's a box. It's working together. It's making sure that your unified platforms work with us. It's making sure things are secure. And actually, real quick on the flexible deployments, if I can kind of zoom in on that, flexible deployments to us is really, really important because, again, hybrid. Our whole goal is hybrid. There will be a need for Nutanix in our data center, Nutanix at the edge, on-prem, Nutanix in hyperscale, right? And so Nutanix having, again, that awesome platform to be able to just to extend here, there, and everywhere, and our level of expertise kind of wrapped around and on top of that to make sure that if there is any complexity that we take that on, like that's amazing to me. That is like gold in my opinion. Duncan, if I may kind of talk to you for just a sec about the flexible deployments. I mean, when we're talking about working with clients who have these specific kind of, hey, we can't do it in your four-wall needs, like, can you kind of walk me through a little bit about, like what's that conversation like? How do we handle that with clients typically? Oh, looks like you're on mute, sir.
Thanks. Yeah, it's really about just that conversation and getting to know the customer's needs and their requirements, and getting the size and the hardware requirements correct for that workload. And that really Nutanix helps here too, because they've got this Nutanix sizer that we can use and get really a live analysis of over time of your environment, and determine what the I/O requirements are, what the memory requirements are, and really build a solution that best fits your needs. And we listed the 3 t-shirt size nodes, but that's not the end of the world. We will work with you if you have specific needs to customize those nodes. If you need more storage dense, if you need GPUs, whatever. So like there's a lot of options that we have with these servers.
And that's one thing again that I really do like about a Lightedge. It's we're going to be able to kind of again hone in on exactly what you need. One client in particular, I know we had to have very, very dense storage configuration. They just had, again, their compute requirements truthfully were not that much, but they just had so much data and they had to interact with so much of it at any given time. We had to, again, kind of pivot a little bit and give them a bit more of a dense kind of per node solution, but again, still getting all the same benefits from Nutanix, right? That data locality, like there's so many things. Param, if I may, storage is such an important part of all this, most certainly, but I think, again, being able to scale really easily, right? And even then, like being able to get different configurations, like that's a really big benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really, when going back to, when we started, one of the key takeaways that the initial engineering team at Nutanix, when Nutanix was formed, was really honing in on storage and resiliency, performance and resiliency and availability. Those were key, in terms of an anchor of a platform, right? Which is being able to get the performance of those workloads, make sure you have resiliency up to filling the platform all the way up in storage. And I think those of us who've been around long enough, like myself and Duncan, know that as you start filling your storage up, your performance and IOPS usually have a negative effect, right? As you get higher in your capacity, right? Those were some key elements of what Nutanix focused on. And to both of your points, I mean, the journey that we've embarked on as partners, it's just beginning, right? To your point, node flexibility, storage density. We have a lot of platform partners on our end that can give you guys all that flexibility to meet your customers' needs around workload density, storage performance, and the mixture of node types, to which Duncan said, and to focus on that a little bit. When we talk about the intense node type that we have, your customers will have the ability to deploy, their clusters in a compute and storage only model to get the full performance of those compute nodes for those specific sensitive applications that they have that need that compute performance, right? So those are just the different deployment models, regardless of the node type. right? That they'll have those options. And as also as Duncan noted, the ability to size the platform also comes with the ability to collect the data to size the platform. And we have those tools that we give you guys, which is our collection tool, which gives you ability to collect from the customer's environment and with performance data. So you actually have a benchmark to see, hey, I'm not just grabbing a point in time of that VM. I'm actually able to measure it for about a week. I can see that VM go through a backup. I can see it go through potentially a report or any service that is operating on that VM that might drive its CPU or RAM or storage performance up. We're able to capture that in a week's worth of snapshot data and hone in on what sizing the customer really needs and what performance the customer really needs.
If I may, and I mean this, and hopefully there are other folks from Nutanix watching, as a solutions architect, the Nutanix Collector and the Nutanix Sizer are two of the best tools on the face of the earth. I adore them. They are wonderful. Again, they're for so long, right? It's, we've all worked with RV tools and the like, right? And which are great, don't get me wrong, but having that a bit more granularity, and again, focus, it's coming from Nutanix, right? And so they're going to, it's not some other third-party tool. You're going to know what is best fit based on your architecture and your software and everything, right? And so you can make sure that, again, you're grabbing the relevance data, you're grabbing all the specifics that you need so that, we can size it appropriately. Sizing is always important, cost effectiveness, all this, but also that it is, basically tailor fit specifically for your needs. And to kind of summarize really all of this, if I may, right at the bottom, hybrid cloud simplified, right? Our whole thing, we talked just for a moment, we step back to a little bit earlier slides we talked about, right? Choice. We have mentioned 8,700 different flavors, choices, storage dense, CPU architectures, frequencies. What are your needs? Do you not really know what they are? We'll help you find those out too. It's our whole thing is how do we take you to the next level without you having to deal with any of the headache? Because if you're like me, you'll have a mental breakdown and you'll have a good cry if you're trying to do a migration by yourself. Alexa, I just see a little message here in the Zoom chat. We do have some Q&A coming up soon, so if you have any questions, please. But before I hand it over specifically for questions, Duncan, any last words before I pass it to Parham for some last words as well? Oh, I think you're on mute again, sir.
I'm just I just want to comment on how nice and a breath of fresh air it is to work with the Nutanix interface after being a VMware, main user for at least a decade now. The complexity is really not on the interface. It's not like the VMware where there's a million different products that you're integrating. It's all one solution that is just works together. So I've really enjoyed the time architecting and working with our team here to build the solution, and working with Parham and the Nutanix team. They've been super helpful. They're always available, and anytime we've had to open support tickets, even they've been resolved very quickly with very rapid response. So it's just a good feeling to have that kind of support on our side as a service provider working with Nutanix.
Right on. And Parham, same question. Yeah, how's it been working with Lightedge so far?
It's been phenomenal, and from the beginning, as I said, Robert, it's been great working with Duncan, the team, the leadership team at Lightedge, fully invested. Just really approached me. I know some of the leadership team, and they approached me and said, "Look, guys, what's it going to take? How do we get this going? We're really excited. We want to build a first-class service powered on Nutanix, and we're just unbelievably excited to partner with you guys and start the journey. And we know the journey is just going to continue to evolve. And I think what I could safely say with us and you guys is focusing on customers, because that's what you guys do, and that's what we do too. We focus on the customers and their outcomes, and that usually is what works the best. And use make the infrastructure and the technology invisible to the customer, and let them focus on what they want to do. And the other thing we'll footnote on our end is 9 years Nutanix has had an NPS score over 90, and so we take support unbelievably seriously, and especially with our partners like yourselves and others. So you don't go through another partner for support. It's directly through us. It's a follow the sun model, no different than you guys having 24/7. So your customers know that when they need something from you, they have us backing you guys to deliver those support and services to give them the best first in class support that they need.
I mean, man, that really speaks to. I know we're about to we're hitting some Q&A, but if I may kind of lead into that a little bit, you really kind of speak to like how important not just partnerships are, but managed service providers are, right? Like we're in a lot of cases, especially for if you're a smaller organization or just maybe have a smaller IT team, we're that first line of defense. We're here to support them in the infrastructure, maybe it's the operating system, whatever that looks like, right? And so it's not. We're again, as that first line of defense, you also care about us having our needs met and everything. But again, like when we come to you with hey, our client has this issue, you're right there with us. That to me is probably the most valuable thing about any partnership. Really, it's regardless of the products, the services, the technologies, all these different things. The most important thing is, hey, when I call you because something bad's going on, you're going to be there.
It's never the if, Robert. It's always the when, right? So I think we all know that term fairly well for those of us who've been doing it for a long time. And we want everything to work perfectly, but not always everything works perfectly. There's always something that could occur or a question that comes up. And so us as two teams, we work together because we want to focus on when it occurs. We want it to be minimized, and we want the customer to get back up and running as fast as possible.
Amen. Duncan, do you want to add anything else there, bud?
No, I think you covered it. Yeah.
Right on. Well, let me just double check to see if there are any open questions. I don't see anything else at this time. Oh, wait, looks like I got someone coming in here. Real quick, folks. You indicated that the platform provided is dedicated to the client. As a current Nutanix user, compare the cost of this service to me simply expanding my current Nutanix system. So I'll touch on that a little bit. So I guess it would really depend upon your use case, right? And so what I'm hearing is, hey, we have Nutanix today, and and should we expand our cluster or something like that, right? And well, again, it really depends upon your needs. If you're looking for, from my perspective, actually, if you are in the midst of needing to do like a refresh of any kind, if you need to tack on something like a disaster recovery, for example, maybe you just want to not have to manage the infrastructure anymore. There's a lot of kind of different things that roll into that question. It's a bit broad, but if I may, for me, the costs of everything, again, it's really going to come down to what specifically your needs are, right? Again, like from an infrastructure perspective, we can be, I'll be honest, we can be fairly bare bones, right? If you just want, hey, I just want infrastructure that I don't ever have to worry about. You guys handle the maintenance and hardware and don't touch anything else. Absolutely, right? We'll size it appropriately and kind of go from there. But as far as actually equating that to what it is today, it would need a bit more information. For what it's worth, I'm happy to have that conversation with anybody. But as far as like really accurately getting costs into there, I need a little bit more kind of information. But I mean, Duncan, right? Like that's it really, we talked about this the whole time. It was us being able to kind of tailor fit for your needs, and it may be potentially more cost effective to expand a cluster, but it really depends on the scenario, right?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons we went with the standardized sizes as well. So we know the costs of those units, and we can quickly, size your environment and turn around a cost so you can have that information to compare with.
Right on. And again, given that we also have these configurable nodes, right, where if there's a particular need, hey, we really, really need to reduce core count, but we have, again, many terabytes of storage. Absolutely something we can do. So if I may, to kind of that may be even like an answer to the question in some capacity, right? Like if your intent is, hey, we need to be able to get very, very dense storage nodes, but very high performance cores, and we just don't have the access to it, or we feel like a partner could get those and manage it for us at potentially more cost effective, like absolutely that's worth a conversation. Again, really just depends on some of the scenarios though, and again, it does vary pretty wildly between customers, especially depending on your industry, right? Healthcare, education, whatever. Any other questions? Going to take a quick peek here. Oh, here we go. Are these nodes available at all Lightedge data centers? Yes, they are. So any one of our data centers across the country, and in fact, we talked a couple times already about, again, we're a hybrid cloud, so if there are needs for on-prem, at the edge, these types of scenarios, absolutely things we can support. Just need to have a conversation. Now let's see here. who should we start with, Nutanix or Lightedge? So that's a really good question. So I guess it would kind of, I don't know, that doesn't really matter, right? It depends on what your needs are. If you're looking for, hey, Nutanix, we would like a service provider to actually, let me rephrase this. Hey, if you're talking to Nutanix and you're saying, hey, this is a phenomenal platform, we really like all this, but we really don't have the skill set in-house to handle some of the networking components. We don't have a lot of the skill sets, or maybe we can't even get the notes, whatever that looks like, right? Nutanix, right, being a phenomenal partner, working with all these MSPs, right? You're going to say, hey, go talk to a Lightedge. Here's one of our MSPs. They'll be able to give you exactly what you want, the sizing you want, manage it exactly you want. And the same would go the other way, right? If you're just working with Lightedge directly, hey, you interested in Nutanix? Great. We already have a partnership with them. We can get that spun up, get you taken care of fairly quickly.
So Robert, one thing I'll add is
Please.
To those questions is I think, if you're working with Lightedge, you're working with Nutanix, simply put, from our perspective, right? We're partners. And I think, to kind of blend maybe the two questions together is if you're looking for a cloud operating model similar to what a hyperscale cloud is, but powered by a service provider, a service provider cloud platform powered by us here at Nutanix, what you're really looking at is bringing those cloud principles and an operating model down, as a service provider product, which is what you guys have built. So when we talk about how, things get priced, specifically, I think, Duncan and yourself and the team have put nodes together. And so it kind of shows you the breakup of those costs are based on a node, right? So, in our reference architecture, you purchase 3 nodes, which is what you guys are, declared on that screen. And then if you want to expand off those nodes, you can go 1 node at a time, you can go 2 nodes at a time. It really just depends on what workloads you want to ingest in the platform. And yourself and others can size that, and you can decide appropriately which is the same node type, the right node type, or is a different node type, the right node type to expand that cluster on. So a lot of flexibility there, in terms of what it means from a cost model perspective. It's really bringing the cloud operating model down closer to the edge of where the customers are, and powering it, having our service providers really deliver that service with their expertise around managed services and everything else, and making it simpler for the customer to consume the platform.
Right on. I'll be honest with you. It's one of the reasons why I bought Nutanix myself. Right. It just feels so much more, again, even from a client perspective, like a partnership than anything else. And especially now, it's especially now with the state of the industry, so many changes, technology's changing, all this stuff. Having a little bit of stability, having a little bit of I know Nutanix, I know New Lightedge, I know they're going to be there. I mean, that's what would have sold me, and has in the past, most certainly. Double checking here for any last minute questions here. I know we're approaching the end of our call. Let's double check here. I don't see anything come across. Double check. I have multiple chat windows open just in case. I think we are good, folks. Oh, yep. There was somebody saying thank you. Well, if I may then, folks, thank you so much for being here today. Really do appreciate it. Happy New Year. Thank you, Duncan. Thank you, Parham. Thank you, everybody that helped set this up. Any questions, concerns, complaints, you want to join my fan club, please don't hesitate to reach out. Very happy to start talking to y'all. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.